whether you go into a local networking group, business networking group or something like that, you will get that peer referral of, have you spoken to Adam at Insight?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did this for us, or I know he did some work for such and such.
It's usually what they say.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was average.
Hello and welcome to the Videography Network. I'm here today with Andy Hubbard of Applebee Marketing. Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely a pleasure. I think we originally booked this in almost 2 years ago.
Yes.
Before certain things around the world happened, which we're not going to go into today.
Absolutely.
But it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to finally sit down with you.
Finally got round to it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself and about Applebee Marketing to start with.
So my background started at what was Southfields College in Leicester, studying graphic design, and there was elements of marketing communications in that. And then having worked in both sales, but predominantly marketing in-house for various businesses throughout the years, finally took the plunge and set up Applebee Marketing back in November 2019, oblivious to what was coming down the train tracks at us, which kind of changed the industry. Certainly made life interesting from a new business point of view, but here we are pushing 2.5 years later, and things are really picking up and doing well.
Fantastic. And I think obviously what we've all been through for the last 2 years, a lot of people needed some advice and some help with their marketing. I know even we did, needed that sort of just help in the right direction, because
I think there's been more reassurance for people that they just wanted a hand on the shoulder to say, yes, you're doing the right thing, keep doing what you're doing. We offer marketing and PR services across the board to most industry sectors. So it's been quite interesting seeing that it doesn't matter what industry you've been in or are in, everybody's in the same boat and asking very similar questions. So ultimately, it's about targeting the right customers, getting the messaging right, ultimately generating leads to follow up that will lead into sales. But it doesn't matter if you're industrial, B2B, or a accountant, you've still got to do the same similar things.
The basics.
Forward. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Amazing. And so tell me, we were talking off camera about how you've used to do sales and marketing, but you're finding that a lot of people now, it works really well for you because you tie the two together in the kind of process that you take your clients through. Yeah,
the experience that we've got in terms of the sales and the boardroom side of things is fairly unique with a marketing company. So when we're delivering campaigns, whether it's a standalone campaign or a longer term project, we're always looking at how we're engaging with the sales teams and how the sales teams are engaging with the clients or their customers to make sure that what we're doing is correct. Quite often within organizations of various sizes, you'll find that what marketing think they're doing isn't in effect what's happening from the sales side of things, and the messaging is missed.
Yeah.
So it's important to get that buy-in from the very top of an organization right the way through to the sales guys who are ultimately selling the product and then engaging with the customers to make sure that the message you started with is the one that they've taken. Otherwise, it turns into a bit of Chinese whispers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always think that, especially video marketing is such a powerful tool, and the sales team should really be, tapping into that to use it to their advantage. But it doesn't always happen, I find.
And I think the word that we were trying to not mention, COVID, has meant that everybody has seen video in a whole new light.
Yeah.
The likes of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, we hadn't necessarily heard of them before the pandemic, and then all of a sudden it's common currency.
Yeah.
So in its basic form, video is being used more than it ever has been. And people are seeing the benefits of, well, let technology do the miles rather than sending a sales team around the country, knocking on doors, meeting customers. You can utilize marketing and video and technology to work hand in hand to have those client meetings. And instead of it taking a day to get from John O'Groats to Land's End to have a meeting, it's all done and dusted within 45 minutes to an hour, and you're on the next call.
Yeah, and what we found actually with a lot of the sort of digital approach throughout the last 2 years has been that people have become more confident on camera. So they don't mind now sitting in front of the lens and saying a few words, because essentially everybody had to get used to it, didn't they, for Zoom calls?
And now you're faced with people trying to kill themselves crossing roads, doing videos to the mates and things, walking down the high street. So it's
I mean, that was inevitable though, with the digital, the digital age that came in. I mean, the amount of times.
No, I think more people are happy to do video now in whatever format, and even down to, I don't know what the statistics are, but people FaceTiming, video calling their friends, their family, whereas before it was just a phone call. There's far more interaction. So right the way in our private lives through to the office, it's changed hugely.
100%. So just going back to working in marketing, anybody that knows my story knows that I used to work for a company in the marketing department, and it was for a specific industry that was very hard to market and make look sexy, and it was for the lift industry. So I always chuckle when I speak to marketers, because I know how difficult it can be. Just a little bit of a curveball question to you: what's the hardest thing you've ever had to market in your time?
Interestingly, and we've never had this conversation, my wife works in the lift industry.
Wow.
And I've done a bit of work.
Yeah, really?
No way. So there's interesting challenges with those sort of things. We were fortunate that they had some very good, one of their engineers was a photographer. Right. So he got unlimited access to his clients, got their permission, and we got some interesting photography to use in it. So it was more visually led, right, shall we say, because it was also a contract pack. So it was quite mundane, but it was a challenge.
If you're in the industry, you loved it, basically. The lift nerds would be all over.
My wife is an absolute lift anorak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I was for a while.
For saying that as well.
I was for a while. Yeah, absolutely, and I know a few as well from my time. But we won't. This isn't the elevator podcast, unfortunately. No. We should start that on the side, though. Yeah, there's definitely some. I don't think one exists. Not that I've looked. Just to change tracks a little bit, and let's get back onto the video marketing. So I have been involved in video production through what I feel is the real video age. You know, I take it back to when Facebook Live started to become a thing, and everybody was encouraged, get onto your Facebook, promote your business, do a live, talk about whatever. And off the back of that, it's exploded throughout all of social media and all the new apps that have come along, the latest being TikTok. Let's face it, that's the current go-to market for a lot of people now. So tell me, how important is video marketing to a company's brand?
I think in this day and age, it cannot be overstated. You've got to use it along with the other sort of marketing tools, but ultimately it's a standard currency to get your brand out there in front of your clients or prospective clients and promote in a face-to-face manner, albeit virtually. Because ultimately people buy from people, and that won't ever change. So artificially getting in front of people and telling stories, I mean, let's face it, PR, for example, is more believable than an advert because it's written word and it feels more natural than a story. So if you've got somebody who's telling you physically about something and it's interesting, they will listen, they will sit up, and visually you will stimulate them, and they'll probably remember you more than just looking at an advert or an article in the press.
Have you found that your clients have bought into video marketing recently? What's the scope out there?
I think you've probably got three types of people. There's the first type that's fully engaged, embracing video, doing corporate videos, doing social media posts, and are going for it full tilt. You've got the cautious engagers who know they should be doing more, but they're doing bits perhaps on social media. They've not quite taken the full step. And then you've got the other type that pay lip service to it a little bit, know they should be doing more, but really don't understand why or necessarily the benefits of doing video marketing, and tend to almost abstain from it.
Yeah, and is budget an issue? Do you find that a lot of your clients are sort of...
Budget's huge. As in terms of an issue. Often the last example are assuming that video marketing is going to be cost prohibitive. It's going to be far too expensive a tool to use. And the ones who tend to be going full tilt are the ones that realise actually is quite a cost-effective way of communicating with people, because it isn't as expensive as you would imagine. You know, it's not a Spielberg production, for example.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be, and that's something that we always try to get across when we have those initial talks with a potential client. That there always is that question mark around budget, because I mean, look, full bells and whistles video production isn't cheap if you do it properly, but there are ways to bring that cost down. You know, smaller shoots, you know, utilizing full days to create. I mean, one of the packages that we offer to our clients, it's only a day's filming, but it creates 3 months worth of content. Now, if you work out the financials behind that, then to me, that makes a lot of sense. And we created that with these kind of clients in mind, where budget becomes the sort of the bottleneck.
And I think it's the same across the whole sort of marketing spectrum. That, well, we can't afford marketing, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, well, from a marketing perspective, one of the first conversations you have to be having is, what is your budget? And, you know, are you going to be offended if I tell you it's going to be X? Well, yes. Okay. Then we shake hands and we walk away, because it's not for you. But ultimately, there is a strategy for everybody. And again, with Applebee, what we try and do is, if there's tasks that can be done in-house by the company, we'll get them to do that, because you know, it's quick wins. The actual social media posting side of things that accompanies a video, the words can be done in-house by one of the team.
Yeah.
Who else knows the business better? The video has to be done externally, but you can marry the two together. So it's all about putting the budget where you need to with what you've got available, and cutting your cloth accordingly. Now, bigger organisations or organisations that are too busy, that don't have the internal resources, great. There's any number of companies out there that will provide social media posts on your behalf.
Yeah.
So again, it's scalable, exactly as you were describing with the video production side of things. If your budget is limited, then let's have a look what we can get the best bang for your buck with, and go down that approach.
You see, a lot of video companies that I know of, and even freelancers, they'll have the discussion with the client, but they won't outright say, what's your budget? Because they're scared of, I guess, you know, going in and too low. Maybe I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just a fear of, it's an awkward question. So with marketing, is it slightly different? Do you go in and say, right, okay, what's your budget? And then you create a plan for them? Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, and I've said it to any number of sales teams in the past, it's okay going and trying to sell a Ferrari, and the customer's looking at it going, that's lovely. I really like that. Can we have a test drive? Yeah. If their budget is a Mini, they're never going to buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
So you've got to get that elephant out of the room as quickly as you can to understand what it is you're talking about in terms of scale of projects, size of projects, available budget, because we can, you know, spend a lot of money in the world of marketing, but ultimately if the client's not got that money to spend, and or it won't serve a purpose, there's no point doing it. So you have to be realistic with what you're talking about. And the best way to do that is ascertain what budgets. Now, it may be in the first instance that you go away and put a light, a middle, and a heavyweight campaign plan together and say, where's your budget sit within this?
Yeah.
Which elements do you like? Well, I like that from the heavyweight, but okay, well, we can tailor it, because with clients, whatever product or service you're selling, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So until they see something in front of them as a scope, they're not going to be able to make a decision. Unfortunately, there's too many businesses out there these days that sell social media, for example. We can do social media marketing for you. Fine, it's an element of a wider marketing plan.
Yeah.
And on its own, there might be a great return on investment for those people, but ultimately it's an element that needs to be considered as part of a wider plan. Otherwise, and I've spoken to clients before who have invested in a particular type of marketing and it's just not worked for them.
Yeah.
And when you look at it from an outsider's point of view, you can see why. Well, stop wasting your money, because that's ultimately what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's look at how we can channel that budget into other areas, whether it be video marketing, PR, or whatever, that's going to generate and stimulate the interest in people to ultimately generate leads and increase sales in your business.
100%. Is there any like pattern to budget? Do people come out like at the start of the year and say, this is what we're going to spend, or is it completely random?
I think recent events have changed a lot of people's mindset. So typically, marketing services were offered on retained basis. And that's great from a budgeting point of view. You know how much you're spending each month. From a marketing business point of view, you know how much time you're committing each month. So it works well. However, with COVID, the budgets went out the window and clients now seem to be very much more project motivated. So you will have a client that you've been working with for many, many months, but they'll be paying on a month by month basis, on an invoice basis, rather than committing for 12 months, say, on a retained basis. So the whole situation has changed massively from that side of things, certainly for the smaller businesses. So they may come to you initially and, I can afford this now. What can you do?
Yeah.
Fine. We'll cut a cloth accordingly on that one. And hopefully then in the future, as they realise that they're getting good service, they're getting good return on their investment, they'll be able to invest more money.
Yeah, in the long run. And I often get that. I often get that from clients where they'll say, this is just kind of like, the first project we'll work with. It's going to definitely lead to more work if you can do it for this budget. And of course, then you take that risk of, do you do it? And you know what? Most of the time, I've found that it has led to them coming back, and maybe this time around they've got a proper budget. Or
I think as well, you guys are similar to Applebee insofar as we are looking for long-term relationships with the clients, because ultimately that's where the client gets the best return on their investment, because you are a natural extension to their team.
Yeah,
you understand their business, and you can have open conversations with them to sort of not necessarily negatively, but call them out on things and say, well, originally we started going down this path. Is that now where you want to go? Because everything's telling us to go down this route.
Yeah.
Because you understand the business, you've been more embedded within that.
Yeah, like an arm of the.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that return is far greater, because you've not got to keep asking people, what about product X? You know the product, you understand the product, you created content for it previously, so you can, you're not having to do everything from scratch.
Yeah.
You're able to move forward in a constructive way using the assets that you've previously created, whether
and
they're
the knowledge
physical.
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I started out in video production, I assumed that my perfect avatar, if you will, my perfect contact would be somebody who works within a marketing company. And I tried everything to connect with as many as possible. And to start with, in my naivety, inexperience, I just bombarded as many people as I could with emails. This is before the the strict ruling about what's it called,
GDPR.
Yeah. So nowadays maybe not, but for me, Andy, you're the perfect contact, because people are reaching out to you for a marketing strategy, and usually you'll probably talk about video at some point, and then I'm hoping that you'll come to insight. That's the whole point. So how does a videographer out there connect with a marketer? What's the best way to do it? Because those emails didn't work. It was just too cold, going in too cold, no trust.
Yeah, and you just get lost if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Within the millions of other emails that people get. I think ultimately your craft, your art is visual. So you've got to produce visual content that catches people's eye. You've got to catch my eye.
Yeah.
I think from going back to a sales point of view, and I've said to the sales guys in the past, you can be the best salesperson in the world, but that's only 50% of it. The other 50% is split down to being in the right place at the right time with the right product or service offering.
Yeah.
So if you are not pitching it to the right people at the right time, you'll just go into a folder somewhere and be forgotten about, which leads to the second approach, which is you've got to be seen as a business. You've got to be not necessarily in people's faces all the time, but people have got to be comfortable. I think they say with radio advertising, you don't hear a radio ad for the first 6 plays. And after that, you're then irritatingly with earworms singing the jingle and everything else.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's that point that you need to get to, that people automatically associate insight with being the videographer of choice
to go to when they need it.
Yeah. Hoover.
Yeah.
It's a brand name.
Yeah.
It's a vacuum cleaner, but we all refer to it as Hoovers, and Dyson's making inroads in that. But ultimately you're going to buy a Hoover. Yeah,
absolutely. So essentially video production companies should be visual, should be out there on a daily basis, just staying in people like yourselves' minds, so that when you get the next inquiry for video, it says that you remember.
Absolutely. I mean, and from a simplistic point of view, am I going to employ the services of a painter and decorator whose business or house has got paint peeling off the windows or the fascias and everything? You're not going to do it.
No.
Because they're not representing themselves in a true light. So you are in control of your destiny on that.
My dad's a painter and decorator, and he when he has like a couple of days spare, he will just redecorate his house. Yeah. Or mine if I can get him in.
Okay.
So I know exactly what you mean. So I guess that brings us to the next point, and it's the most important part of this podcast, really. It's to do with trust, right? So let's say we've been very vibrant on social media and we've caught your eye. We've done some creative things. We've maybe targeted marketers, which we have done in the past. We actually did some videos that were aimed at marketers, giving top tips on how to do this, that, and the other, with graphic design, video, everything. And they were out there, and we were hoping that Andy Hubbard is going to click on his LinkedIn or his YouTube, search for top tips on a certain aspect of marketing, and we pop up. And you watch our video, you like us, you reach out. That's kind of not too far dissimilar to how we met in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But my point being, off the back of that, we've broken through the initial awkward stage, and we're now, friends, in work colleagues, whatever you want to say. It's so important that when somebody asks you for video, you trust us to do a good job. Because essentially it's your neck on the line now, because you're advising to your client, these guys are either an extension of Applebee Marketing or there's a partnership in place. So tell me, how important is that trust element?
It can't be overstated. I think ultimately what you're looking to is develop a relationship with, as you said, someone you can trust.
Yeah.
Someone who is technically competent and capable, but that you can relate to and work with. Going back to the point I said earlier, people buy from people. So if I'm employing the services of a videographer, I need to make sure there's some sort of chemistry there. There's some sort of synergy between us. There are any number of suppliers of both marketing, PR services, digital media, video services, the whole lot. And you've got to look for a round peg in a round hole. It's exactly the same as recruiting for internal staff. You've got to make sure that fit is absolutely right, because if it's not, you might work with them once and that's it.
Yeah.
And to my mind, that's dead time, because you've not got that long-term relationship in place. And you might do that. You might have to do that because that's what your budget dictates you do. But ultimately, I'm always looking to work with an organisation who I can forge a long-term relationship with, that is a natural relationship and complements. And on the plus side, then there's the reciprocal business that comes out of it. And when you're talking to a video client and they're looking for a particular service, you can refer somebody else in.
Yeah.
And similarly, that's how I would approach it from my side as well. So it's trust. It's that you've got to make sure that fit is right. And you do need to look at it perhaps not quite as formally as a job interview, but that's not the kind of mindset that you need to be going into it with. Can I work with this person going forward? Are they going to add value to my business?
And just to put it on to look at it from your side, so let's say we get on really well and then we go and do a project for you and it's no good. Not that would happen at Insight Video, but how do you proof check that the videographer is any good? What are you looking for in a person's portfolio to say, yes, this matches the Applebee sort of brand and strategy?
You will see from the work that they've submitted to get them the other side of the table, to have that meeting face to face to start with. But then it's also the testimonials, their client testimonials, word of mouth, and good companies when you're, whether you go into a local networking group, business networking group or something like that, you will get that peer referral of have you spoken to Adam at Insight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He did this for us, or I know he did some work for such and such.
It's usually what they say.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was average. But no,
6 out of 10.
That's the thing that really starts selling it, that then puts it on my radar to be saying, I need to have a conversation with these guys because I'm hearing too many positives. And it's going back to what we were saying before about the whole PR side of things. Yeah. You believe what you hear and what you read in your own comfy environment. So
it's testimonials essentially. Yeah. And why would a video company go in and do a video for someone without getting a testimonial for themselves? And you know why? It's because as video producers or video agency owners or freelancers, we're not thinking about ourselves. We're out there. We get sent in to do a job. We have a storyboard. We have a shot list. We have the lights, the cameras, the audio. It's all we're thinking about. There's so much to think about. And the last thing we ever think about is ourselves. And so the most important thing we've done at Insight recently in the last 12 months is behind the scenes footage to show that we're out there, to show what it looks like, show we're real. And we've got, staff and faces. But we've also always now grabbed a member of the team from the client and said, could you just say a few words?
Yeah.
We did it recently for Sturgis Motors, and the testimonial that we got was so good. We've worked with them for years. Why has it taken this long to get a testimonial?
And I think any business is the same.
Yeah.
They're so busy trying to promote or sell product, they're not promoting themselves.
Yeah.
And from a marketing perspective, we're no different. We spend a lot of time marketing our clients and not necessarily marketing ourselves. And,
and I think a lot of the problems that video agencies do as well is we'll do a fantastic video for somebody. So let's say something very niche, like a manufacturing company, and we'll post the video and it means everything to the client and their circle and their audience and their target. But what does it mean to your average Joe? It's not necessarily exciting. It's not really proof that we will work for, let's say, a sports company further down the line or something like that. So yes, you can post your portfolio. Obviously have a portfolio page to send people to. But what what good does posting a client's video on our social media do? But then if you post a behind the scenes video of that shoot with a testimonial included, that's so much more powerful.
Yeah. And it's about breaking down barriers as well. I mean, who'd have thought, was it Inside the Factory? You're watching Greg Wallace, how they make Easter eggs or Christmas cards or socks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's strangely captivating because of how the video is put together and the content. Do I have an interest in those things? Not necessarily.
Probably not.
But the filming of it has sold that. And it's always about getting the messaging right for who you're trying to attract. You don't necessarily want 50 phone calls from people saying, I saw your video, it was lovely. Yeah, thanks, great Aunt Maud. What I want is 2 or 3 phone calls from potential clients going, I've seen your work and I'm really interested. We need to have a conversation.
Yeah, 100%. We had something similar so we do a lot of property videos. Obviously, it's a massive industry and it's really hot at the moment, especially during the pandemic with the whole stamp duty thing. It just went crazy. And also people working from home, they suddenly had to sort of, have room for a studio, which they realized maybe not a studio, home office. Yep. We need a home studio. They needed a home office. So they suddenly maybe needed to either move home or have an extension or renovate. And so we saw a massive drive in that. And so what we did was we started to do, we created a landing page, and on that landing page is a video, and it's just me talking to camera, explaining why you need videos in your property business. And we've had such a great response to that because people are out there and they realize this is a booming industry. We need to be showing it off. Property is a great example. Similar to Sturgis, it just looks good on camera, doesn't it? And all those, you only have to think of all those daytime television shows. They're there for a reason. People are watching location as an example. People buying and selling homes. It's an attraction. Renovating homes, the before, the after. It's entertainment as well.
And people are nosy.
People are nosy.
They like going into other people's houses and having those around.
They want to know how much it's worth and how much it could sell for and what the renovation added on and things like that. So, it's a good example of video that's worked for us. And again, it was just a case of recording some top tips for property videos and then whacking it on a landing page.
I think as well, you can't underestimate video in a supportive role as well. So if you're rolling out a campaign or you've created a white paper, a technical white paper that's a bit bone, but ultimately you're backing that up with top tip videos or snippets from that document to camera that's posted on social media, it will have far more attraction and a wider appeal to your target audience than just saying, hey, we've got a white paper. Yeah. Well, look at you. And until the client actually sees a little snippet from that, think, actually, I didn't know that, or that would be useful. So it's not just looking at video as the big headline thing. It's using video, as I said before, as an element of a wider strategy to support the other activities that are going off. Yeah,
100%. And that reminds me of, and we won't mention the client, but we're working together on a current project. What started out as, I think you had some instructions, and now working on those, you've realized we need a video.
Yeah.
How to play as well as instructions. It's a board game, we can give them that. We won't say the name just yet, but keep your eyes and ears peeled. But I think you were working on the instructions for the board game, and then that evolved into, hang on a second, we need a video how to play, and I think also a video of how to set up.
Assembly. So we've got gameplay, we've got instructions, we've got setup, and then hopefully an interview with the inventor.
With the inventor, and then you've also got a great website and some great marketing materials being created. So it's like you said, video is one part of a huge strategy in order to sell the end product, which is the
And I think where people don't often cash in on the videographer is when you've got somebody from a business that's committing time to sit down without distractions of day-to-day work and talk about a product, a service, or them, to then be able to run the transcript from that, you have any number of elements that you can create from, whether they've referenced a quote like you just did there with Sturgis, whether it's a bit of history that you didn't know, or a particular application that's different. These are things that from a marketing perspective, we can extract from that video and turn into testimonials, can turn into product literature, can turn into social media posts that link to the video or a standalone. So it all comes from having that person sat as we are now, just talking. So they've committed their time.
Absolutely.
That's the big asset capture. And then from that comes any number of other things. And you'd be surprised how often a client will ask me, oh, can we get snippets of this as well? You know, as well as the longer piece of content, can you do as a couple of sound bites? And it's almost assumed now. We assume that that's going to be part of it. I include that in my quote because why wouldn't you? I want this video to be a success for you. If you're not chopping up a longer piece of content, then it's not going to be a success. But yeah, it's interesting to hear it from the marketing side as well. Just to end then, tell me, you've obviously been involved in marketing and the bigger picture, but in terms of video marketing, what's the best example that you've got for me that you've seen either, you know, anywhere in the video world? That's a very good question.
There's so many examples these days. It's almost overwhelming. But
I tend to like the spoof ones, anything that doesn't take themselves too serious. And that's rich because a lot of my experiences come from the corporate world. But those sort of videos, is going back. Was it Hamlet cigars?
Right.
Back in the day, not very PC these days.
No.
But the guy that was with the comb over, the character, the Rabsy Nesbitt actor, with the comb over and sat in a photo booth, and every time he went to have his photo taken, the seat moved, his hair moved, or something. You know, it's anything like that.
So like a bit of comedy element to it.
It's just
doesn't take itself too seriously.
A bit light-hearted.
Right.
I like all that sort of stuff. I'm trying to think of something.
Well, let me butt in because you've brought ideas to my mind. Something quite recently, actually. Obviously, we're living in a world of where Twitter is a lot of people's news now. They go to Twitter for their news. So there's a comedian on Twitter who actually does spoof MP videos. What is basically a more exaggerated version of what exists out there at the moment. And hilariously, people can't tell the difference and believe that she is an MP, and she gets a lot of abuse, but therefore also a lot of eyeballs on her account, more followers. Her followers have jumped massively since she started doing, she basically acts out that she is an MP and people can't tell the difference. And she gives these ridiculous, opinionated videos out there, and it's all done in with laughs in mind, but people take it seriously. And I guess that says what the state of British politics is at the moment, that people can't tell the difference between satire and the real thing. But she's become very famous. Her Twitter account has exploded because of these satire videos that she creates. And so that, comedy is a strange one. I always say that comedy is very difficult to pull off in video. Not I'm talking TV or anything like that. I'm talking the occasional time that someone has come to us with a funny idea for their video explainer video or for their video marketing. It's always very difficult. And there's been times where it's completely fell flat and we've had to rejig everything. But there've been other times where it's worked really well. It's if it works well, it really goes far because you're more likely to get things.
I think the British like a bit of self-deprecation.
Absolutely.
And if you can work that in subtly, it's fantastic. You don't need a lot. I know there was the recent ad, was it KFC, where there were issues that, who'd have thought that a fried chicken company would run out of chicken. But it happened. And they did a clever ad where they'd posted their normal KFC bucket, but instead of KFC, they'd got FCK on the bucket instead, and it was one of those, a picture speaking 1,000 words. But again, it was that poking fun at themselves, admitting that there was a problem, and sort of turning that into an advert, and from a social media point of view, turning a negative into a positive, and generating the publicity from that as well. So it's
absolutely. Clever. And I do know a person who worked for, I think it was Burger King, as a social media executive, or what basically he wrote the tweets for them, or it had a sort of shift at where he was in charge of the Burger King account, and one of his tweets went viral, and he actually had it printed and on a plaque on his bedroom wall, which I thought was quite funny. I can't remember the tweet, but that's how serious these people take it. So whoever came up with that KFC idea was probably very proud of it, because that, the more retweets, the more shares, the better, isn't it, in this day and age? And
you just reminded me then of Burger King using a McDonald's advert for vacancies,
right?
And I think it was basically, come and work for a king, not a clown.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, that's it. But people love controversy, don't they?
Yeah. And I don't know, Mercedes and BMW on ads for for decades have always been good sparring partners.
Yeah.
On, sort of tongue-in-cheek jibes at each other, and this, that, and the other. So it makes for entertainment, I think.
Absolutely.
Caterpillar Gate recently with Marks and Spencers and Aldi with poor old Colin.
Oh yeah,
that was all over the news and social media.
But,
and things
but
like
both
that.
Companies, record sales for both on both sides. So it does work.
But and true to form, Aldi was taking it more tongue in cheek than as you'd expect M&S to be quite
bit more
serious
privileged
about things. Yeah, but interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Andy, for joining us for the Videography Network.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've touched on so much, and I think the important thing that I'm taking away from this podcast, as I knew when we came in, was all about trust. Trust,
huge,
and building that sort of relationship with somebody, not just in marketing, in any position out there, before you sell your services to them, because, as I've said, you're putting your neck on the line to bring us in, to fulfill your client's request. And if you don't trust us to do a good job, then, what's the point?